Back in 1992, Gary Chapman famously posited that there are 5 love languages, 5 ways that each of us are primarily oriented to show and express our love. Words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, acts of service, and gift giving. This week, I would argue that there's a 6th. Camp packing. Once upon a time, as sleepaway camp approached, parents would just throw whatever their kids had lying around into a trunk and call it a day. Today, there are detailed, multi-page lists of all of the necessities, things you definitely do not have just lying around the house in the quantities requested. For example, 14 t-shirts, sneakers, and rain boots, and beach shoes, whatever those are, and shower shoes, and Shabbat shoes. 3 toothbrushes. Really? I'll be excited if my boys use just one. After decades of yearly packing, I've learned some hacks, and I've become a bit obsessed. As June arrives, my family finds it hard to recognize the Sharpie-wielding whirly dervish with following them around the house in single-minded pursuit of the answer to one question. Does this still fit? Books pile up unread on my desk as I fold clothes like a Marie Kondo ninja and organize everything just so. All the while knowing that the hours of carefully constructing an organizational system, if it works, will be completely invisible to my kids the moment they get to camp. And it's equally likely that the socks will wind up in the pajama drawer and the flashlight will be lost before week's end. So, why do I do it? Why do we do it? Not just the camp packing, but all the unseen offerings that we give, not just as parents, but in all of our relationships when we care about someone and want to make their lives better. As luck would have it, our Torah portion speaks to just that. Amazing how that always happens, right? Our rabbis notice something hidden in plain sight. As our ancestors are making their way through the desert, Miriam dies. Suddenly, there is no water. The connection, according to our sages, is clear. All the while that they had been traveling, the source of their water, the source of the sustenance that our ancestors enjoyed was Miriam. Or as Rashi recounts from the Talmud tractate Ta'anit, all 40 years they had the well Bizchut Miriam, in Miriam's merit. No one noticed. No one thanked her. No one imagined the magnitude of the sustenance that she had been sharing all along. There are countless commentaries that teach from this the critical need for gratitude. Like an ancient Joni Mitchell crooning, "Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone?" Our rabbis shout from the pages, notice the people in your lives. Notice what they're doing for you. Thank them while you still have time to thank them. All of us who have lost someone we love know all too well the heartbreak of realizing too late that they were the source of our water. that those phone calls were not for them, they were really for us. That the regular walks that we took, the coffee shop we frequented, or the sports teams we rooted for together were the substance of memories that we can never quite replicate. The cookies never taste as sweet as when Bubby baked them. The bed is never quite as well made as when our partner made it. He always handled the telemarketers. She always made sure that there was an umbrella waiting by the door, just in case. Earlier this week, I was on the highway behind the slowest of trucks, carrying a large shipping container. And just as I was about to pass in frustration, I noticed that the shipping container was marked Zim. Memories came flooding back. The awe I felt as a little kid looking up at what was to me an impossible height at my great cousin Itzik and his beloved Bila, who passed earlier this year on the helm of a ship that he captained, a ship that was stacked high with Zim shipping containers. His stories opened my eyes to the world. Her hummus came with a bracing dose of honesty that guides me to this day. And as I slowed behind that truck, I wistfully wished for another chance to say thank you. My kids, meanwhile, asked why I was so moved by a semi-truck on the pike. In answering, I realized that Miriam's well is so much deeper than just a lesson not to miss the chance to show gratitude, as important a lesson as that is. Because while I know that it is important to say thanks, I'm fairly certain that I did say thank you and that they did know. But that's not why they did it. And not why I remember it either. Miriam was the bearer of water, not because she needed or even wanted a thank you. The well didn't dry up when she passed as some sort of vindictive, oh, now you'll notice. Now you'll regret not having recognized it while I was here. Instead, the well is a symbol of what our tradition calls a chesed shel emet, something we do with no expectation of reward, the deepest, truest love language. Rabbi Bradley Shavit Artson writes, Miriam's prophecy was one of deed. Rather than focus on stirring speeches or administration of justice, Miriam focused on teaching her people how to sing in moments of joy, and she saw to their sustenance during their period of exposure and fragility. I like to think that was obvious for Miriam, and that she herself derived the sustenance that she needed by being able to sustain others. We do that as parents. We do that as partners when we take out the recycling at the end of a long day because we know our partner is just too tired to do it. We do that as teachers when we get supplies for the classroom out of our own pocket in order to decorate the walls that the kids will never comment on, but when they walk into the classroom, it will be warm and welcoming and bright. We do that as administrators and as business owners when we spend the extra hours ironing out a wrinkle that no one will ever give us credit for seeing. We do that as friends when we send a joke that we came across just because we know that it will bring a smile. The gift is in the giving. ESPN Daily recently profiled hockey player Ryan O'Reilly's mother. Bonnie O'Reilly was the kind of mom who always had a full house. Any friend was welcome at any hour. And when her kids were young, it was a chaotic household because they were so passionate about hockey. And there was a neighborhood rink manager, Graham Nesbitt, who would make it his business to open the rink early in the morning, before school and at lunchtime, to make sure that they could practice. On snow days when school was canceled, he would get to the rink even if he had to take a snowmobile in order to open it so that they could play. In 2019, Graham fell ill. His son launched a social media campaign asking for help, a campaign that Bonnie happened to hear. Graham needed a kidney. And without hesitation, Bonnie called him up and said, "I'm starting the process." After 8 months of testing and trying, she was determined a match. After the procedure, she was the subject of much fanfare from the press. But Bonnie swatted off all the attempts to thank her. As she saw it, this was just a natural extension of all the countless little things she tried to do daily to support those in her life, because to do so brought her joy. She reflected, "My role model would have been my mom, who always told us that it is better to give than receive, and to try to make everyone else's life a little bit better than it is." Which brings me back to camp packing. If we do it right, our kids will never notice. They won't open up each carefully labeled bin and say each morning, "Wow, my mom must really love me." And that's how it should be, because each perfectly folded item brought me comfort, knowing it might make them a little bit more comfortable while they are away. The gift is in the giving. Where in your life do you find this joy? The joy that flows naturally from the quiet scaffolding you provide for someone else. Can we run towards those opportunities, amplify them, honor them as much as we do the big, noisy deeds that get the most credit? If Miriam had her way, my guess is she would have been most moved, not that the well dried up when she died, forcing people to realize how much she had really done that had gone unseen, but that when she was no longer there, someone finally thought to call out, "Spring up a well," and cause the water to flow again. May we all be disciples of Miriam, causing the well of love to flow again and again for those in our own lives today. The gift is in the giving. Shabbat shalom.